Pathway. Man, thank you so much for coming and being here. If you're new, welcome. My name is Brian. I'm the pastor. And at Pathway, we simply want to help you to know God, to find family, and to make a difference. That's what we're all about as a church in a nutshell. So, man, again, thanks for being here. We're in the middle of a series we're going to conclude next week, so you want to be here, where we're looking at the parables of Jesus. Next week, we're going to talk about prayer, but we're looking at the parables of Jesus. And if you're like, well, what is a parable? Well, a parable is a story, but it's based in reality, we would say. It's based on true events, kind of a thing. And parables, as we looked at last week in the New Testament, that was the number one way Jesus would preach or teach and communicate, was through parables. In fact, it says that he and Mark literally never taught or preached publicly without using parables. And again, they're not, fiction where it's like Little Red Riding Hood where the wolf talks. It's nothing like that. These are things that are based in real life, based in reality that everyone could relate to, that are kind of like real life events but different names type of a thing that everybody could understand. And a parable has one main spiritual truth. So there's one main truth, one main point. We would say maybe it's a one-point sermon type of thing, and that's what these parables are. There's about 42 of them, give or take, in the entire New Testament, at least the teachings of Jesus. And we don't have time to look at all of them because that would take about a year. Maybe someday we'll do that. That'd be fun. But we're just looking at a couple, and we're going to look at this one. The one we're looking at today is couched in the last week of Jesus' life before the cross. So just a few weeks ago, we celebrated Easter, the death and resurrection of Jesus. And this happens, probably if Jesus dies on Friday, resurrected on Sunday, this probably happens on like Monday, Tuesday of that same week. And so this happens, and it's a really important question. The disciples asked Jesus one question with two parts. They ask him, what will it be like when you return? And essentially, what should we do in the meantime? How will we know? And Jesus answers that. I mean, he gives great details of, the sun will go dark and the moon and all that stuff. And that's another message for another time. And he answered that. But then we're going to focus on what he says to do in the meantime. While we wait for the return of Jesus, and we believe Jesus is going to return, what do we do in the meantime? Do we just come to church on Sundays and that's that? Well, maybe. I don't know. Let's see what Jesus says. In Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, Matthew was the guy that wrote it. He was an eyewitness disciple of Jesus. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus is answering the question about his return and what we should do in the meantime. Matthew 25, verse 14, Jesus says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. And after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, 'Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more.' The master was full of praise. 'Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.' The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, 'Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more.' The master said, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.' Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, 'Master, I know you are a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant, gathering crops you didn't cultivate. And I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back.' But the master replied, 'You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you at least deposit my money in the bank? At least then I could have gotten some interest on it.' Then he ordered, take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Welcome to church. I mean, that just gets you fired up that you're here today, right? I mean, like weeping and gnashing of teeth. We're glad you're here. If we could summarize this again, every parable has one main point, and most of the time Jesus tells you the main point, and we're about to look at that. But if I could summarize the main point, it would just simply be these two words: actively invest. Actively invest. That's what the parable boils down to. Verse 29 is the key to the whole parable when Jesus says, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and then they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. I mean, that's the whole point of the parable. The whole point of the illustration we're going to break down in a moment, but it's simply this, that whatever God has given you, use it well. Be faithful with it. Actively invest it. Be a good steward of that. Whether it's a lot or a little is beside the point. It's, I'm going to be faithful with what he has given me. Here's the thing. When you give your life to Jesus, instantly, God gives you a gift. Instantly. It's not like, well, I got to be a Christian for 18 months and get pre-approved, and I got to have my credit score at a certain point before I get a spiritual gift, and I have to be able to memorize the Lord's Prayer and Psalm 23, and then I can receive a spiritual gift. No. The moment you say, Jesus, I give my life to you, instantly, he gives you a spiritual gift, a gift. Now, for a more detailed list of all the gifts, that's another message for another time. But the point of the parable is, if you're a follower of Jesus, you have a gift, full stop. I mean, end of discussion, you have a gift. In fact, this idea is full in the entire Bible, really in the New Testament. It mentions it many, many places. I'm just going to give you two more because this is a consistent idea, a consistent theme. A guy named Paul says this in the New Testament in a church that he writes to in Corinth. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 says, a spiritual gift is given to each of us so we can help each other. And then another guy who would have been here, heard that day, that heard Jesus give this parable, Peter, Jesus' right-hand guy. Peter heard this parable. And later on, after the death and resurrection and ascension of Jesus to heaven, later on, decades later, Peter is remembering that as he's writing letters to churches. And he says this in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10, God has given each of you a gift from his variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. The moment you give your life to Jesus, you get a spiritual gift. I mean, it's an incredible thing. He doesn't wait for you to be a real seasoned Christian where you're really mature and you really know deep theology. No, he says, hey, the moment you give your life to Jesus, he gives you a gift. And notice what it says. It's his gift, not yours. We're going to talk about that. So it doesn't belong to you. It's on loan to you from your Father. And second of all, he tells you the purpose, to serve others. The point of the gift isn't to say, look at me and my gift. Aren't I special? No. The point of the gift is to give it away, to serve other people, to be a blessing to other people, to serve them, to encourage them. So the questions that you need to answer, that I need to answer, is number one, do you know your gift? Do you know the gift that God has given you? What you're gifted at, we would say. Do you know? And I would say this, I think self-awareness is a gift in and of itself. If I could be king for a day, I would grant everyone have the gift of self-awareness, because that's something really lacking in our culture, right? Self-awareness. But you got to know what self-awareness is a gift, because you got to know what you're gifted at and what you're not gifted at. Because one of the travesties is you think you're gifted at something when you're not. But just because grandma, when you were 7 years old, told you you could sing, doesn't mean you're Celine Dion, all right? It just doesn't. I wish that was true. But and then you grow up, your life thinking, I'm gifted, and you're not, but you don't have any self-awareness to know. So you got to know your gift. Well, how do I know? You got to pray. I mean, clearly, if God is the one that gives the gift, you need to ask him, God, what's the gift you gave me? It's a simple prayer. And he'll tell you, God is not going to make you wait. God's not going to say, well, I'm going to keep you in suspense for 6 months and then I'll tell you. Or I need you to fast for a week and liquids only and then I'll tell you. No. Ask him, Father, what is the gift that you've given me? And he'll tell you, and then you need to use it. You don't keep it, you give it. You don't keep the gift to yourself. You don't say, well, that's good, I'll just keep it until I die. No, that's a waste. In fact, you are the wicked, lazy servant. I mean, I don't mean that bad, but it's true, you are. Right? When you know that the Father has given you a gift and you keep it to yourself, you're no better than the wicked, lazy servant. And you're not going to make it in eternity. I mean, that's the reality. God gave you a gift and he's like, well, I just kept it to myself. No. It's God, you gave me a gift and I gave it to other people. I actively invested in other people. I actively invested in serving others and building your kingdom. Do you know your gift? And are you keeping it or giving it to others, serving it? Self-awareness. You got to know what you're gifted at and what you're not gifted at. Here's the other thing. On the other side of that spectrum, some of you are truly gifted by God to do something, but because no one has really fanned that flame, no one has really told you and helped you, you're kind of insecure about it. And God has really given you a gift, and you're like, I think it's a gift, but I don't really know. But it's a gift from God, but you don't have that self-awareness that other people to encourage you. So you got to pray, God, what's the gift you gave me? And then secondly, you need to get around some other more seasoned, experienced men and women of God, Christians around you, and ask them, hey, I feel like this is a gift God's given me. What do you think? And be open to that. Look, if you've been following Jesus for like 5 years, probably don't ask that question to someone who just gave their life to Jesus last week, right? I mean, maybe we use some self-awareness, right? Some discipline. But you've been following Jesus like 5 years. Ask somebody who's been around the block 10 years maybe, okay? And you ask them, I think this is the gift God gave me, but I don't know. What do you think? And hear what they say. You got to know self-awareness, what you're gifted at, what you're not gifted at. My life, I love baseball. I always have. It's my favorite sport. I love it. It's unhealthy. I love it so much. And when I was a kid, I wanted 3 things in life. I wanted to be a pastor. We can check that off the list. I wanted to be president. Not going to happen. And I wanted to be a professional baseball player. And I kind of thought, well, the pastor thing, I can kind of see a path for that. The baseball thing, I think if I work hard enough, maybe, I could be a pastor and baseball player. Maybe. I mean, when you're 5, you think of those things. But I'll never forget. So I had it in the back of my mind. My sophomore year of high school, it was the first year you had to try out for the team. Every other year, my dad was my coach. And so I automatically got a spot on the team. And my freshman year, or my sophomore year was the first year I had to try out for the JV team. I'll never forget coming home after that first day of tryouts. It was over like a week long. The first day, my dad picked me up. We're in the truck and going home. We lived about 30 minutes from the school. And he said, I love you. I'm like, yeah, I think I know where this is going. And he said, I love you, but there's certain things you're gifted at in life and certain things you're not. You're not gifted at baseball. He said, I mean, I wish I could have laughed, but I didn't, okay? I mean, I was crying. I was like, what? You just crushed my dream, man. And it crushed me. I was like, you're kidding. I mean, I really thought. And he's like, you're not. And he said it in a nice way, but where it wasn't ambiguous at all. It was no doubt. You're not good enough. You're not gifted enough. You're not good enough. But, Brian, I really see God's hand on your life, and I know you said you feel like God wants you to be a pastor, and I see God doing that and developing in your life. You're going to be better to spend your time and energy on the things of God, like serving in a church, than you would being baseball, because that, as good as that is, you just don't have that skill set. And I mean, it hurt. It really hurt. I was bitter about it for a while, but deep down, I knew it was right. I mean, deep down, I knew he's exactly right. And that was some of the best advice I had ever got. Because then I basically dropped all of it. I was like, I'm going to focus solely on this. You have to have people in your life where they can speak in and say, hey, I know you're trying to do this and to do that, but it just doesn't seem like God is blessing that as much. It just doesn't seem like you're as gifted at that as you want to be. I get it. We all want to be gifted. I want to be gifted, but I wasn't in baseball. But you are gifted over here. And so let's be a good steward of the resources God has invested in your life. Instead of wasting it over here trying to be Celine Dion on our worship team, why don't you go serve with Kids Path over here? Because God can bless that, right? You got to know your gift and serve it. So the question is, are you faithful with what he has given you? Whether it's money, time, talent, treasure, whatever. Are you faithful with what he gave? The issue isn't I don't have enough. It's am I faithful with what he gave me? The guy with 2 bags of silver didn't say, well, I'll produce when you give me 3 more. So I'm like the guy with 5. He didn't compare himself. He said, you know what? If you believe in me with 2, let's take 2 and let's run with it. Let's invest it. You got to know what you're gifted at and use it. Be faithful with what you're gifted at. Here's the other thing. I really believe this. Every human that's ever created will be asked one question when they, at the end of life, for eternity, when they meet God. One is, what did you do with Jesus? Did you give your life to him or not? That's the number one question. And the answer, I hope, if you come to Pathway, is I gave my life to him. He was my whole life. He was everything. Great. There's a follow-up question. Because if you answer no to that, you're done. But if you answer yes, then I really believe there's a follow-up question based on this parable. I believe the question will be from the ultimate master to you, what did you do with the time, talent, and treasure that I invested in you while you were on the earth? And how will you answer that? How will I answer that? Because he's going to ask you that. What did you do? Well, I was just really busy. Wrong answer. That's an excuse. Well, I was afraid that I was afraid that you're a harsh master. Wrong answer. There's no excuse. Well, I'm just super busy. You have the same 24-hour period that the President of the United States does. Well, I'm busy with my kids and sports. Then maybe we got to make some hard choices, right? I mean, you're not any more busy. So it's just an excuse. So when I hear like, well, I'm just really busy, I'm like, no, that's an excuse. Well, if I was as talented as so-and-so, of course I would do great things for God. Of course I would use the gift God gave me. Wrong answer. Notice the other guys, they didn't go and say, well, I need more of this. They said, is this what you gave me? Let's go. Only one guy made excuses, and it didn't end well with him. So don't be, well, God, if you gave me more talent like so-and-so, then I would use it for you. God, if I could pray like so-and-so, if I could be like so-and-so, then I would do something. No. God, what have you given me right now in my hand? I didn't own it. I don't earn it. I don't deserve it. It is a gift from the Father. And so, God, what is the gift you gave me? And I'm not going to sit here and just, well, I wish I had some more. I mean, think about it. This is the God of the universe and who owes you nothing, and yet is willing to give you an amazing gift to use it. And how dare we look back and say, that's not good enough. In my house, we call that a spoiled brat, okay? We do, all right? No, instead say, Father, this is what we got. All right, let's go. Let's invest. I want to be the best pastor for you I can be. I really do. I work at it. I have coaching for me to help me be a better pastor. I analyze, scrutinize every single sermon after every single service. I did it first service. I'll do it at the end of this one. I'll do it at the end of the third one. I walk back there and I ask the people, how was that? How could it be better? What did you like? What didn't you like? What made sense? You know, I listen to other sermons throughout the week. I like this guy. I read. I study. I want to be the best. Not because, oh, look at me, but because when I think about it, it overwhelms my mind. The God of creation loves me. He could have picked anybody to be the pastor of Pathway, anybody. But he chose me. I didn't earn it. I didn't deserve it. I'm not qualified, but he loves me. And so I'm gonna do the best that I can. I mean, that's the idea that when I get to heaven, I'm like, man, God, I worked at it. Till my dying breath, I worked at it. To be a better pastor, to be a better preacher, to just be the best. It's not just, well, I went to seminary, I got the degree on the wall, and I'm good. No, we're not coasting here. I'm reading other books, I'm studying stuff, I'm working. Man, we need to do that till the day we die. I want to do that with my kids. I want to, when I see my Father in heaven, I want to say, God, here's the wife that you gave me. Now, I'll be honest with you, she was already a 10 out of 10, so there wasn't much improvement there. So we'll give her a pass. But my kids, God, when you gave them to me, they were cute for about an hour, and then they were little heathens. And God, I worked hard. I mean, God, we worked hard for those kids to turn them into little saints. And that's between you and them now. But that's my prayer, is that God, you gave me, and I don't think of it just as pathway, of course, but I think of it as my family. God could have let my wife marry anybody. You know how blessed I am that she picked me? Yeah. A lot of times we say, well, it's, marrying up. I'm married up, but you know what that means for her? She married down, okay? That's what that means for her, right? I mean, I know it. It doesn't hurt my feelings. That's her problem. It's true. But it's a gift. And I think of it like that. I think of my kids as a gift. The Bible's clear all over and over. Children are a blessing of God. They're a gift. And so I want to cultivate their little hearts and minds to love Jesus so that they know their identities in Christ alone, not what their friends at school say. I want to invest in them. So I even view it as my home. God, you blessed me with this house. I mean, I know what it's like to rent. And God, I thank you for this home. And I want to take good care of it. I want to be a good steward that you blessed and be faithful with that. Listen, you don't need more. You need to be faithful with what you have. Don't ask God for more. None of these guys ask for more. The guy with 5 was not like, well, if you give me 5 more, then I can. He's like, no. Be faithful with what you have. Don't ask for more. You have everything that you need right now to do what God's called you to do in your life. Everything. It's not, well, if I can learn whatever. Nope. Everything that you need, that God's gifted you, you've got it right now to do what he's called you to do. Here's why this matters, because it's not about me. I love verse 15. It says that the master gave to each of them according to their ability. Nobody got more than they could handle. Nobody got less than they could handle. According to their ability. Nobody, sometimes people misquote this like, well, God's not going to give you more than you can bear. That's honestly not in the Bible. It says no temptation has seized you beyond what you can bear. But that's about temptation and sin, not challenges of life. But God's not going to give you more talent than you can handle. Okay? God's not going to make you a 6-star athlete when you're only a 4-star. I mean, just not going to happen. Like, God, I just got too much talent up in here. It's not going to happen, okay? It's not. And don't go and say, well, I wish I had more. I'm not good enough. No. You are insulting your Father when you say you're not good enough. You're insulting his investment in you. I mean, honestly, how dare we say that? I mean, the idea is no one can get more or less than they can handle. Be faithful with where you're at. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about next year. Well, no. Just be faithful today with what he gave you. And here's what that means. They weren't compared to each other. So stop comparing yourself to each other. Notice at the end, the master doesn't say to the guy with 2, like, hey, why weren't you like the guy with 5? He didn't do that. Notice the guy with 5 didn't look down his nose at the guy with 2. Honestly, they weren't really concerned about each other. They were only concerned with, am I being a good steward with what the master gave me? So if God isn't comparing, when you get to heaven, listen, maybe this is liberty for some of you. When you see God, he is not going to tell you, why weren't you like Abraham in the Bible? Why weren't you like David in the Bible? Why weren't you like Peter? He's not going to do that because he didn't gift you to be Peter or David or Abraham. He gifted you to be you. And he's going to say, what did you do with the potential and gift that I gave you? So don't go around and say, well, I wish I could pray like so-and-so. I wish I knew the Bible and theology like so-and-so. I wish I had the gift. No, you're insulting your Father. Instead, go around saying, God, this is what you gave me. I'm going to be faithful with it. And I'm not going to compare myself to them. I'm going to celebrate what you did give them. God, that's awesome that you blessed them that way. It's awesome that you gave them that gift and they're using it for you. In the meantime, I'm going to focus on my gift. Culture says to be like them, but the goalposts keep moving. Our culture says, if you want to be accepted, be like us. Give in to us. But the problem with that is, you listen, if you don't know your identity, if you don't know who your master is, culture will tell you. And they keep changing it all the time. And that leads to chaos and frustration. No, these guys knew who their master was. There is freedom when you know who your Father in heaven is and what he gifted you to do and the purpose that he put you on this earth to do. There's freedom in that. Because then I don't go around worrying about trying to be somebody else and be what they think I should be. And that's the problem. Sometimes as followers of Jesus, we have one foot in the church, we'll say, and one foot in culture. And no wonder we get pulled apart. Because my identity is, well, Jesus says this, but culture says that. And no, you know what was freeing for these guys? They walked around saying, hey, I'm not worried about other job offers. I'm not worried about what this person says I am and what this person thinks of me. I got one mission, to be faithful with what my master gave me. So what your opinion of me doesn't matter because you're not my master. My Father is. His opinion is what matters. That's what I'm going to focus on. I mean, that's what, again, as a parent, I'm trying to instill in my kids. Your identity is in your Father, not what your friends at school say about you, not what other kids say. It's in Him alone. There's freedom there. There's encouragement and joy. Here's the other thing. They understood, these guys, the first two rather, that none of it was for their personal wealth or advancement. It was all for the master's advancement. They understood it wasn't like you gave me 5, I earn 5 more, but I'm going to keep the first 5. No, it's not, it doesn't work like that. They understood I own nothing. None of this belongs to me. None of it has my name on it. It's all for Him. It's all for the master. I understand that. I heard a church say this a while back, and so we're going to steal it because it's really good. Names nowhere, fingerprints everywhere. Which just simply means it's not about me. It's not about anything. It's about, man, can we just serve each other? Can we just be a blessing to each other with whatever God gifted you? And this is not a, hey, you need to join a purpose team sermon. I mean, that would be great. We would love for that for you, absolutely. But this is, well, I sell insurance. Great, we need, if that's what God gifted you to do, we need that, especially right now. It's going to hail like crazy, right? I mean, we need that, okay? I mean, I'm a stay-at-home parent. Man, we need that to guard and guide your kids' hearts and minds. Well, I'm a public school teacher. We need that to guard those kids. You don't know what those kids, their home life is like. You might be the only beacon of hope that they have. So we need that gift. So don't hear this message and say, well, you're talking about gifts in the church. No, I'm talking about what's the gift that God gave you. If it's a school teacher, be that best school teacher you can be. Well, I work in chemistry. Be the best chemist you can be. Whatever God has gifted you, do that with pride, not arrogance, but pride because my Father believes in me. He gifted me to do this, to serve other people, to be a blessing to other people. And that's what I'm going to do. Their gift is not to impress others, but to serve and advance the master's purpose. Your gift that God gave you is not to say, look at my gift, look at how great I am. No, it's to serve others and to advance His purposes. I'm involved in a couple of things outside of Pathway, and I was telling my wife the other day, one of them, it just seems like I haven't been involved with very long at all, and God's really blessing it abundantly. And the other one I've been involved with for 9 years, and it's like nothing. And I said, I'm going to pray about which one, because again, I'm going to be a good steward of my time. And so which one do I need to do? And because I want to be wherever God is blessing. I want to be involved in that. Be a good steward of it. They understood the money didn't belong to them. It was on loan from the master. You have to understand the gift that God gave you isn't yours. None of these guys, the master didn't come and say, you guys have earned this. You deserve it. That's not how the conversation went. And no doubt, I mean, this guy probably had dozens of employees, maybe hundreds, and he picked these 3. Listen, your Father, it's not that, well, you earned it because you've been a good little Christian and you deserve it. No. He just gives it to you out of His grace, out of His abundance. And you don't own it, therefore don't brag about it. Instead, whenever the spotlight is on you, you're just a mirror to reflect it back on your Father. To say, man, it's Him. He's just using me, and I am so humbled and blown away that He would. And I work hard at it, but it's Him. I mean, He just blessed me with it. I mean, that's the attitude. It's on loan. Because someday, I believe this, when I was born, God gave me this gift. And someday when I see Him face to face at the end of life on earth and beginning of eternity, it's as if I'm going to give it back to Him, so to speak. Along with my wife and my kids and my home and all my money and all my time and all my talent and everything, I'll give it back to Him. And we'll have a similar conversation. And I pray that it goes like, Brian, I gave you 2. And man, you worked hard. You earned 2 more. And that's great. Come on and let's celebrate together. That's the prayer. And notice this. This just blows my mind. The master rewarded them for being a good steward with his money. So let's slow down and think about that. The master says, you don't earn it, you don't deserve it, it's not your name at the savings account, it's my name, it's my money. I'm loaning it to you temporarily, but when you're faithful with my stuff, I'm going to reward you with my stuff. That's how the kingdom of God, that's God's economy. God says, I'm going to give the gift to you temporarily while you're on the earth with time, talent, and treasure on the earth. And so that when I meet you face to face for eternity, I'm going to say, hey, you get to share in the reward. It was my stuff that I gave you, but I'm going to let you celebrate, and I'm going to give you that reward that belongs to me. It's amazing. I love that God does that. When we're in heaven, it's not, yeah, I earned it, deserved it. No, it's going to be, I was faithful with what I have, but I didn't even belong to me, but I get to enjoy all the abundance of my Father's blessings. That's why it matters. Here's the big takeaway. You have to know it and give it. Know your gift and give it. Remember, what we go back to the very beginning, what's all this couched in? What do we do while we wait for the return of Jesus? Well, number one, we need to tell other people. We need to prepare other people for his return. What is that? Share the gospel. Make disciples. Tell other people about Jesus. That's priority number one. And number two is this. Number two is be faithful with what he gave you. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't wish you had more. Or just be faithful with what he gave you. And be a good steward of it. While we're waiting for his return, it's not, oh, we're looking at the cosmological signs in the sky. That's fine. That's important. And it's not, well, I think this person's the Antichrist and this person's the Antichrist. And what does 666 really mean in the book of Revelation? No. You're not going to be held responsible for that. You're going to be held responsible. What'd you do with the gift, the time, talent, and treasure that I gave you on the earth? Some of you, I gave you 20 years on the earth. Some of you 40 years. Some of you 60 years. Some of you 80. Some of you 100 years. What'd you do with that time? Well, God, I was just really busy. That's not going to go well. It's not. Well, God, I would have done more had you given me more. So now you're going to blame God for your laziness. No, it doesn't work like that. No, it's I'm going to be faithful with what you gave me. I'm going to work hard for it. The issue isn't not how much we have, but how well you use it. The money was meant to be used, not buried in the ground. So is your gift. It is given to you by God before you were even born. Before Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, God said, let there be light. God had a gift just with your name on it. And with a purpose of using it for others. Not burying it in the ground and keeping it. No. Jesus will ask you, what did you do with the resources I gave you while you were on the earth? What's your answer going to be? I don't know, but man, I went to as many Thunder games as I could. I went to one last Sunday and it was awesome. But the idea isn't my life was consumed by that. I don't know, but I can tell you who won the last 5 elections, Jesus. That's not going to work. It's this is what you gave me. This is what I did with it. Here you go. That's the goal. God, you gave me an amazing wife. Here you go. You gave me 3 kids. Here, I bring it back. You gave me the best church in the whole world called Pathway because they're amazing people. And God, here you go. I give them back to you. You are expected to earn a return on God's investment in you. There is an expectation by God in this moment where he is expecting to earn a return on his investment in your life. What are you doing with it? Again, this is not you need to serve on a purpose team here at Pathway. I mean, that's part of it. That's great. I'm talking about what's God gifted you? Ask him. Ask others. And here's the amazing thing. God will never do anything that he hasn't already done himself. Don't you realize God is not saying, you need to give me your best, period. He's saying, you need to give me your best, and I'm already modeled that for you. Because 2,000 years ago on the cross, I gave you my best, my son Jesus. In fact, later in the New Testament, a book called Romans, in Romans chapter 8, says that word for word, that God would not even spare the greatest gift that he had, his only son, so that we could have a relationship with him. I mean, don't you see it's in some ways reciprocal that God is not saying, give me your best. He's saying, I gave you my best first. While you were an enemy of the cross, while you were still a sinner, while you didn't love me, while you didn't believe me, I loved you. I chose you. I have a gift for you. And now that we have a relationship, I want to get a return on my investment in you. But I've already modeled the example. The point is, if you're here, start there, a relationship with Jesus first. That he gave everything for you. So the first step is to give your life to him. Find the gift that he gave you and then begin serving it diligently. So that when he asks you someday, what did you do with the time, talent, and treasure I gave you on the earth? You have an incredible answer, like the guy with 5 and the guy with 2. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for the truth.